can and you still have a growing family yourself. Um, what are you seeing that drive the decision for people to start building these tiny homes on their properties?
Well, there's usually about three paths. I, I've I've summed up three paths that are usually um, being put in front of families at the time that they're trying to decide what to do. Okay.
Okay.
And the first one being they're having conversations about mom or dad going to an assisted living facility. If they're talking like that, this is the time. And that's just one solution. And a lot of times they think that's their only solution.
Hmm.
Um, so if you're thinking of going to an assisted living facility, I've evaluated this to say, okay, well, what kind of money is that? What does that look like? You're about financially somewhere. There's a lot of different thoughts to this, but on average, for a nice ADU, I mean, I'm sorry, not an ADU, assisted living facility, you're somewhere between six to 8,000 a month, somewhere
Uh-huh.
in that category. Yes. And if you
Yeah.
think about that, that's money coming out. And think about, you're never going to get it in the form of money coming back into you, in the form of it being a value. It's money always going out.
Right.
So in a year, you think about how much money has gone out, and however many years your parents are there.
Hmm.
Okay. It's an institution. You're not able to see them as often as you'd like. Most times they don't want to be there. So it's not the right, it's not ideal for them either. And so that's, somewhat of a health thought with
Hmm.
that. So that's one solution. The second solution that most times people do because they think they're usually in crisis and there's nothing else to do, they move them into their home, even though their home is not quite equipped for it. They have
Mm.
an extra bedroom and they think, that's enough. We're going to be able to work through this.
Yeah.
But your parents have their own life. They have for a bunch of years. And you have your own life and the way you do things. And trying to meld those things back together often causes tension. And you're forced in a situation that's not ideal for most occupants of the home. But that is a solution for some people.
Yeah.
And the third option would be if they think of this ADU, this independent unit in the backyard. Now, ADUs can actually have other forms. It can be a garage that you've converted. It could even be an addition onto your home. But just for the sake of having this conversation, most ADUs that I do are detached, or that
Okay.
I'm going to talk about are going to be detached, because that's usually the ideal solution.
Okay.
Um, your parents will have their own front door that they can close or open at their will. Invite people in or invite people out, I like to say.
Like it.
Yeah. So um, they are in their own home. Although it's steps away from yours, they do have their own home still. So that
Yeah.
usually is a um, what do I say? A solution to the sacrifice, I guess I could say. Um,
Hmm.
and usually acceptable. The other part to that is you have a return on investment because the money stays on the property and your property increases value because you have something of value that appreciates, does not depreciate, and money that gives back to the property in some form or another. Your parents have their independence. I think I said that already.
Hmm.
And oh, there's one that people don't think about a lot of times. If you have little ones, they get to see their grandparents very often. I
Yeah.
always smile when I say that because I think that is something that doesn't happen very often, and it's something that gets missed, but people love it when you're able to see, the grandparents are able to see the grandkids on a daily basis. You can have dinner with your parents on a daily basis. How many people get to say that?
Right, right.
Yeah.
And that's so important. In our realm, in the home healthcare realm, we know that people who get to stay in their familiar surroundings, stay in the home that they built and that they love, that they thrive better, right? As opposed to being taken into a new environment. And that's not to say that an ADU may be the best option for everybody, because we know for many reasons that it may not be. But just statistically speaking, people thrive better, right? They do better. They're happier when they can stay in familiar surroundings or stay closer to family who that they can see more often. So I think that's very important, and thank you for bringing those up. Um, so let's talk about where does an ADU fit into the aging in place conversation that most families haven't considered yet? I think you touched on this a little bit, but you and I, we often do talks and discussions about the whole long-term care planning, right, process, and many families they shun away from or they put off these conversations. So, where does that ADU conversation fit into the conversation where mom and dad says, do not put me in a nursing home, do not send me to assisted living. I want to stay right here in my house and I want you to be able to see me all the time. When do you bring up that ADU conversation?
Personally, I think it should be brought up as soon as possible, as soon as
Mm,
you're having a conversation, because it gets them ready, mind ready. It opens them up to the idea. Most times they're not going to have thought about it, probably, but if you start early on talking about it, even if you don't really know all the particulars, I
mhm.
think that helps them warm up to the situation. I From my experience, they seem to be more open to that. I think it's just because of what you said before. They're not taken out of their community, what they know.
Yeah.
And that's huge to somebody who's at that age.
Yeah.
Um, so there's another section of things that we talk about, and I have a um assessment that I give folks if they're thinking of they're having a conversation. And the assessment centers around four different areas. Property potential is the first one, because is your property able to carry an ADU? You won't
Mm,
know all the regulations and the setbacks and all of that, but do you have a sizable property that you think could carry a 600 square foot unit in the backyard? That's
mm,
one. The second thing we talk about is financial readiness, of course. These units usually run somewhere on the low end, over a little over 200,000, could be as much as, I mean, they really could be as much as you want, but just realistically, between 200 and 360,000 is
mm,
typical.
okay.
Um, so if you're able to plan and set aside that and have that as part of the plan, then that's reasonable for something like this. The other two things people definitely don't think about, even professionals that are in the business, contractors don't usually talk about, but I think it's quite important, because if these two things are not talked about and you're not able to come to some kind of conclusion on the positive side of it, it won't happen. It has nothing to
Mm,
do with money or property.
mm.
Want to know what one of them is?
I do.
Okay, so independence window is one of them, meaning, is your parent active? Are they able to do things for themselves? Or do they need care? You know, whatever level that is. Not to
Mhm,
say that this can't be done, but it makes it a little tougher. You have to think about other things if that's truly their wish and you want
okay.
this ADU situation process. So, are they how is their mobility? Is it planning? Have you spoken to the doctors and have they told you anything about their care and what they may need in the upcoming future? All of those things play to this decision, because it's going to take a little time to get this done. But that aside, you want them to be able to live there for a number of years for it to make sense. So that's one. The other one that people don't think about is what I call the family dynamics. Because
Mm,
if sisters, brothers, whoever else is involved in this decision, if they're not on board, guess what? It ain't gonna happen.
right, right.
Those I think are even more important than the first two because the other two, I think you can get there. Just, you can get money. You can, come up with a solution to where you can find the money. If you're planning on going to a assisted living facility and you're paying 6 to 8 thousand a month, you can
Yeah,
certainly come up with a plan to be able to get one built and let that, be part of the process. And the property situation, yeah, we have to make sure boxes check, but that's actually relatively easy. It's a yes or no answer. The other things I mean, we can have a conversation about it, but I can't, I can't really help you with that part of it. That's the
right.
part that, the family has to talk about it and discuss.
Mm, that's good. That's real good. So let's go back a little bit. So you mentioned that depending on the mobility and how the family member may be able to get around or not, it may make it a little bit difficult. And that's not to say, right, that if they do need some care at home, that it still can't be provided in
Mhm.
the ADU, right?
Of course.
So is that something you take into consideration with building? Looking into the future, hey, they may need some home care in the future. So we need to make sure there's adequate space in case we need to have a nighttime caregiver here or live-in caregiver here. Is that something you discuss with the families in the forefront?
Of course. I'm going to always look at the highest and best use of the property and the highest and best use for what the regulations will allow. And then you can tell me whether that works for you or not. And I'm
Okay.
going to do that because there may be things that I know that maybe you haven't thought of that I think it's my duty to bring it up. Because this is what I do. I talk to lots of families, and therefore I have access to information that probably the average person wouldn't have.
Mhm.
So if I know that you can get an 800 square foot unit on your property, if the city will allow you to do that, but you tell me you want 500 square foot, I'm going to not try to talk you into it, but I'm going to make sure you have all the information you need to make an informed decision about that. Because what I would not want is for a couple of years down the road for you to think, I wish I had added that extra room and bathroom.
Yeah.
Because I think it's important. The age that you are now and your abilities now, and this is for anyone, don't equal what they'll be in 5 years. We don't know. None of us know.
That's true. That's true. I'm changing every morning. I'm telling you, I have to talk to my legs and stuff more and more every morning just to get out of bed. So that's so true.
Yes. And the other part to your question, I will say, is every time I sit down with someone and we're looking at design and we're coming up with how big it should be and what the issues are, I am designing as if they need a caregiver
Okay.
because I'm designing more for the caregiver than I am the actual um, end user because I need to make sure that the caregiver have what they need to be able to take care of the person. And
Right.
if I can do that, then I can definitely do the other part of it. The other part just happens naturally.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I know you mentioned earlier you got to make sure that you have enough to build did you say 600 square foot? That's the minimum?
Every city is different, and that's why you need a like a consultant. I'm considered a consultant first, more so
Okay.
more than I'm a consultant. But oh yeah, I can get it built too because I'm also a general contractor. That's the way I look at it. But I'm a
Got it.
consultant first because the rules and the regulations, the zoning rules in Florida are very tough. They're all over the place. So you have to be savvy in the questions that you ask the city up front to make sure all your areas are covered. Because if you ask a question and it's asked exactly like you think it should be asked, but it doesn't cover everything, they're only going to give you information for what you've asked. And
Ah,
that's how the city operates. They're not going to give you more information. You think you're going to sit down and have a conversation with them and they're going to tell you everything. That's not how they operate. So
hmm.
you really need someone who knows this in and out to kind of go to bat for you and get that information up front. And if it's not obtained up front, you could be finding out later when you're in the middle of a build information that may not be able to be overcome.
Hmm. So that's important to know. So give our audience just a little snippet of, just say, a 600 square foot. What would that look like? What does that entail? Is it a full bathroom? Is it a full kitchen? Is it a full bedroom? Just give us an idea of what that might look like in a space like that.
So I can tell you a couple of my manufacturers that I deal with. Um, if it's under just under 500 square foot, I know for sure we can do a one bedroom, one bath with a kitchen and a one bedroom, one bath with a kitchen and a living room. That's about it. But I can get that built for you. That's just under 500 square foot. If I had
Really?
800 square feet, I can do comfortably a two bedroom, two bath.
Hmm.
And I
Interesting.
know, and I say it that way because 500, 600 square foot, somewhere around there is the cutoff for most cities. They will tell you that that's the most that they will allow you to do.
500, you said?
500, some of them is 500, some of them is 600. That's
Okay.
usually, I would say 80, 90% of them are about that. Palm Beach County, I happen to know, will allow you to build 800 square foot. So I know they're a little bit bigger than the norm.
Hmm. Okay.
Mhm.
And so building this, is it just like constructing a new home? As if I was constructing a new home, I have to go through all the necessary permits and inspections and all of that along the way?
It's exactly like you're building a new home. The only
Okay,
caveat is they call it an accessory dwelling unit because in order for you to have that, you have to have the main house there already.
I see.
But
Wow.
other than that, it's a kitchen, it's a at least one bathroom, it's a bedroom. A main house has all those things. And that is the reason why people always ask, well, such a small, tiny thing. Why does it cost so much? I get asked that a lot, a lot. And
That's
it's
a
because
valid question, right?
it is a valid question. But I say to them, I have to build a kitchen, a bathroom, and at least a bedroom. You have that in your main home as well. That's where all the money goes. The kitchen and the bathroom is where most of the expense happens because I have all trades, water, electric, everything is in all those rooms. I just have a tiny footprint. So the footprint is not what matters. It's bringing all the trades in and then I'm multiplying it by the footprint. So it costs more to build. I mean, if you really think about it, it actually costs more to build a small, tiny footprint as opposed to 1,500, 2,000 square foot home.
That's interesting. I would have never guessed that.
Yeah. Because see, I have a lot more space to spread the cost against in a
Okay.
larger size home. Does that make a little bit more sense? That
It does.
talks a little better? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a lot more space that I can spread the costs against. If I got this little tiny space, I still have the same items going in it. They're just I don't have to my pipe is not as long. I don't have to take the plumbing as far across the house. So I don't need as much plumbing, but I still need plumbing. I still need electric. I don't need as much, but I still need it.
Right.
Just to get these entities there, there's a cost. And then once it's there, the cost starts to drop. But the initial cost to get them there and to have all these things is what's carrying the cost of your project.
Hmm. Wow. So is it a complicated process? And then about how long does it take the project from beginning to end?
I'm glad you asked that question. Um, I chose to primarily work in modular, and I'm going to say a little bit about what modular is too, but I chose to work in modular because number one, it's built in a controlled environment. Modular means it's not built on site. It's built in a factory. Does not mean that the code has to change. I still have For the modular, I still have the same codes that I have to meet as if I'm building everything on site.
Okay.
But building it in a controlled environment is better because your inspections, you have better control of the people, you have better control of the processes. So it ensures, and your inspections take place in a controlled environment.
Okay.
Once you bring those pieces on site, there is some inspections there. There are some inspections that'll have to happen. There is some work that gets done, but it's a fraction of what goes in it when it's in the factory.
Hmm. I
Now,
see.
how fast does that happen? Usually I can get a modular done between 6 to 8 months.
Okay.
If I'm building this from ground up, traditional, it's usually a year, sometimes up to 18 months.
Hmm. That long.
It takes a while to build a home, and it's not so much the actual physical work of building, it's the building process itself. We have, obviously the planning, but then once you turn it into permitting, you're at the mercy of the municipality.
Right. Right. And
And
they're usually in no rush.
they're in no rush. Anything and they're short staff, their processes are not always great. I've got to make lots of calls to get it moving through the process. Sometimes I have to go over there and speak to people to get things moving. I mean, it's crazy, but it's the truth.
Yeah. Yeah. But you get it done. That's what I love about you. You always get it done.
Yeah.
Um, what do you want every family caregiver that's listening this evening to understand about the housing side of this decision? What it can mean not only for their aging parents, but for them and their family as well. What would you like for them to understand about this?
Well, you said something early on that I thought was great because um they're children, children meaning, how do I say this? Adult children,
Mhm.
like, they're the ones that are making these
Like you
decisions.
and I.
Like, yeah, like you and I. But we're the ones that are making these decisions about our parents. I mean,
Right.
I got hit several years ago when I saw this coming on. It was eye-opening for me because I was having conversations with my friends about their parents. And when I just, I don't know why I didn't think of it, but I just never thought that that would have been part of the equation.
Mm,
And they were concerned about their parents. Most of them don't live close to home anymore, but they worried a lot about them.
yeah.
And they just really didn't know what that was going to look like. Some of them, the parents may have health conditions, or they may have had, what I heard a lot was they were having falls. That's
Mhm.
actually what made me think more about my business and, the remodel and stuff that I was doing at the time. Um, it made me actually change my business to where I wanted to work more with families where this was their issue because I felt I could make a big difference there. So what I would say, if you're having concerns or thoughts about, if you're even thinking about it now and you're having, I'd say have the conversations early. That's what I would say. Um, find out what their wishes are. Most people know that their parents, they say their parents really don't want to leave the house. Don't learn that. I mean, what are we talking about here? When your parents insist on staying, right?
That's right. Right.
Don't want to leave. So you make it comfortable enough for them so they don't have to. And the caveat there is about planning. If you're at all curious, I have an assessment that I usually send out to folks. But you can free to go on the website and look at it at any time. If you go to aduassessment.com,
Okay.
aduassessment.com,
Okay.
that will take you to my assessment. What it does is it breaks out the questionnaires into 4 different areas, those 4 areas that I talked about earlier: the property potential, the financial readiness, the independence window, and then the family dynamics. It breaks it out by those sections. and you are scored by those sections. After you're done with it, you get the report and you can look at it, you can read through it, you can see if it makes any sense to you. But these are the questionnaire is about if someone knew nothing about this, but really
Mhm.
wanted to get more information without maybe calling someone yet, you just want to research on your own and see what your own, how much you know or how much your property might be ready. Some of the questions ask about property. Um, then you can find out and get a reading on your own. And then at your leisure, if you get to the point where you want to talk to someone, my information is there.
Wonderful, wonderful. And we'll post that website in the comment section on Facebook. That's really good information. Listen, Jane, you know how fascinated I am about these ADUs. I could talk to you for hours about this. You're such a wealth of information and expertise. I think it's important for the community to know that this is available to them, right? With all the other options that are out there, you don't have to settle. You could have mom or dad right next to you so that you and the kids and the grandkids can be very present in their lives. So before we leave, I just want you to tell us how we can contact you, where we can find you, and if you offer any free consultations or anything of that nature.
Well, all of my consultations up front are free. I mean, you can reach out to me on the website. If you go to the construction company is js1construction.com. If you go on that website, there'll be information there to reach me. Um, if you take the assessment, at the end of the assessment, I believe it's at the end, there'll be a way in which to contact me that way. You can look us up, js1construction.com, or I do have an email. I can give you that information as well, js1construction@gmail.com. I feel like I'm giving you too much information,
No,
but
it's never too much.
it's never too much. Okay. But yeah, there are lots of ways to find me. Jane, you can even just Google me. I'm sure you find me. Jane Snell Simpson, the lifestyle contractor. I'm all over the place.
Wonderful. And I also want to add that Jane will be joining us again on August 19th at 7 p.m. We'll be doing a webinar that talks about how one fall can change everything for our aging and elderly parents or anyone. She'll join a panel where we'll have discussions about everything long-term care planning. So Jane will talk more about these, is it called adult dwelling units?
You, well, you were close. Accessory dwelling units.
Accessory dwelling
You
units.
got two of
Okay.
the three words right, Tammy.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah. Think about it as an accessory. The main house, this is an accessory to the main house.
Okay, okay.
Got okay.
Accessory dwelling units.
Yeah.
So you'll learn more information. You'll have an opportunity to ask Jane more questions. And of course, she just gave you all of her contact information. So if you have any additional questions, go in there, take that assessment. Give Jane a call, give her an email, so you can learn more about it. Again, this is when your parents insist on staying. We come on air just about every Thursday at 7 p.m. We were on a hiatus for a while, but we're back now. So we'll be here giving you that information that you need to make those important decisions about long-term care planning and how to plan for not if something happens, but when it happens, right? So we want you to be as best informed and as best organized as you can be for when something does happen and you need to make a decision. Um, Again, you can find us here every Thursday at 7 p.m. I am Tammy with Gracefully at Home Caregiving. You can find me at www.gracefullyatHome.com. You can give us a call if you joined us late or you're not getting all the information and you need more information on Jane. You can give us a call at 561-218-4703. We're here to help. We want to inform the community as best we can with what's going on in all of our lives these days. We thank you for joining us. We hope to see you again next week. Take care and have a good evening. Good night. Thank you, Jane.
Thank you for having me. Good night.